Okay, I'm live. Check my microphone settings here. Make sure everything's working like it's supposed to be working. Okay, that looks like it's picking up sound anyway. Okay, that should be fine. I'm Chuck Gibson, and I showed up here today to show off something that showed up in the mail yesterday. Thought we'd take a look through the Neal Adams Artist Edition. Uh, they offered this with two different covers, which I'm sure are both represented in here. I guess this was the direct market version, so I went with the Green Lantern Green Arrow cover. Nice end pages. I'll try and keep it in frame. It's huge. And we don't want to, linger too much on the end pages, nice as they are. Um, it's a nice introduction by Bill Sienkiewicz, who also does the portrait here. And then the credits pages. This book, I looked through it yesterday uh, a little bit, not nearly as much as I wanted to. It looks like most of it covers like a wide range of Neal Adams' career. Everything from his Batman work to his Brave and the Bold stuff that he did to Dead Man. There's a little bit of all of it in here, including some horror stories. A particular horror story that he didn't pencil that's in here. Anyway, and just start flipping through it. You'll see what's going on. Let me see if I can shift you guys over a little bit and get something better here. There we go. There we go. Sorry about the anybody getting any motion issues. This looks like Giordano inks to me. One thing that I wish that IDW would adopt that the Conan Colossal edition has going on for it is down here at the bottom of the page of each page they would list what issue it's from briefly and who was the penciler, who was the inker, so that you didn't have to sort it out and go back and forth with the table of contents. Anyway, sorry, I'm slowing down. I love that Batman cover. Oh, and it's where they Batman and Robin meet the Beatles. Kinda. I mean, they're not really the Beatles, but he's an example of some of the experimentation that they used to do in the 60s and the 70s with the covers that you really don't see. You're starting to see a resurgence in people using ink wash and things like this. This is probably some kind of like crayon of some sort of art crayon. And obviously the board is it's got a pretty good grit to it to give you this texture. Same deal here. That's all pencil. Oh wait, no, I stand corrected. I see some ink wash in here as well. So, but he is leaving it very much in pencil as best as possible. It looks like. Oh, I love this story. I'm going to be pouring over this too. I can tell because I love Dick Giordano's inking in this old stuff over Neal Adams. He just did an incredible job. This is my favorite inker over Neal Adams. I taking nothing away from Tom Palmer. He did very respectable work too, and I idolized that as well. But I had a soft spot for this Giordano stuff. See, next they need to do another one uh, of the Marvel work. Let's get some of that in there and see some of the. Let's see some of that Tom Palmer stuff. Do another volume like this, maybe two. Oh, see, you get a couple foldouts. You need to be careful with these damn things because if they get caught in the spine of your book, you really jack them up. But this thing folds out and and gets you way more characters going on. Yeah, yeah, Rob is one of my favorite artists of all time. It would be hard to say between him and John Byrne. I came to him through John Byrne, kind of. Uh, Byrne mentioned him as an influence, and I was trying to draw like Byrne, and it's like, well, if he was influenced by this guy, let's go look at one. I had the fortune of my mom was a garage sales shopper, and she brought me home Avengers number 93, which is like this double sized issue of Ant-Man shrinking down and going through the Vision's body as he lay there unconscious, and what the innards of the Vision look like, and all this stuff. It's just absolutely incredible work. And from that point, I determined fairly quickly, like, oh, okay, well, forget John Byrne. Let's try and get closer to this if we can. Pretty tall order. Not my first love as an artist, but the second one, because that first girl always does you wrong. That's just how that works. Wow. Yeah, I've been waiting on this thing to come out. This was supposed to be out, I want to say, like last November is when they were talking about it. And then they announced it sometime before. It took them forever to get this thing actually out on the shelf. I always wonder, it's like, look, if you know where the art is and it's scanned and you know how to put one of these together, why is it seems to be so difficult to actually get it in front of people? Wow, I've always loved this shot of Batman. Um, Let me get it to where you guys can look at it. Shit. All right, we're gonna have to get oh way creative on this. I'm not lugging this big thing around. I apologize in advance for any vertigo. Trying to get. I guess I'm not doing a good job of it. I love that shot of Batman. It's just unfortunate that it's at the bottom of the page. All right, all right. This is getting out of hand. Everybody okay? Nobody got hurt, right? Okay. Now that I've made everybody nauseous, we'll just have to flip through and see what we can. Let's see if I can get this thing to stand up higher, maybe. Sorry, guys. Hang on. No, that's about as tall as my tripod's gonna go. And that's just it. Just gonna have to do. But we're getting a little more of it. I think you could see most of the pages now. Okay. Enough futzing with it. Let's just flip through the damn thing. It is what it is. Wow. A little bit. Truth is, just really not afraid to go in extra beefy with that line weight in order to indicate the lighting. There are pages I noticed in this when I flipped through it yesterday briefly, um, towards the back that I'd never seen before. I, absolutely new to me, so I thought I was at least familiar with his work that I'd seen most all of it. And I still think I have, but they did surprise me with a couple in this that I was real happy to see. I love this shot of Batman. Everybody loves this shot of Batman, though. Come on. What's not to love? That is just amazing. Come on. Very iconic stuff. One of the Brave and Bold issues that had Batman and Deadman. Real early Neal Adams work. I'm not sure how old, but older than me, I believe. This is something I'm going to have to find somewhere where they've gotten a decent scan of this, so I don't have to try and put it on my scanner bed. But I think I'm gonna attack that bad boy with some digital ink at some point or another. I've always wanted to ink old stuff from the issue with Green Arrow. Wow, great covers. more Batman and Dead Man stuff. These amazing high contrast shots. Obviously, it's from a photo. I know that now. But when I'm first being introduced to this stuff, and look, I'm not taking anything away from Neal, uh, because that's a hard angle to do, and you need something very precise for the face. And hey, he's in a hurry. You want this today, right? So you take your shortcuts where you have to. But his raw drawing ability on stuff like this that's obviously not photo referenced, because like stuff like this hand and things like that, he pull that out of his hat, no sweat whatsoever. Just sit there and bam, there it is. This issue with Batman in the House of Mystery. So you get your little bit of a horror tale going on, as well as getting your Batman fix. Nice Phantom Stranger Batman and Robin cover. That is incredible. Some of these covers, I didn't even know this was Neal Adams. I mean, I don't ever remember even seeing that cover. It was just among a blur of stuff that came out. But he did so many covers for DC to try and help him sell books because it would work. Neal would do the cover and the sales would go up. There's a reason they used him. Some of the Enemy Ace. That was one thing I thought was kind of unfortunate is not a big representation of his war comics work, but most of it is on the pages that you've always kind of wanted to see, and then some. So hey, volume two. Let's get a volume two. Why not? And Marvel, please feel free. Talk to Scott Beer. I'm sure he'll be happy to help you with getting one going. If I'm not mistaken, when Neal passed, he left his wife behind, and of course, his medical bills and things like this. So I hope they see some of the money from this book and from other books like it. Strange Adventures, the first sort of Dead Man stuff. Camera angles like nobody else would do. See, and that's the thing. You look at this now and you're like, okay, so he's on a Ferris wheel. Big deal. Well, yeah, now, hell, you could probably find a 3D model of a Ferris wheel someplace, or lots and lots and lots of photos all over the web. But when he's trying to pull this off in the 1960s, I don't even know where the hell you get. You wait for the fair and go and take pictures. Maybe. He's out in the New York area. They got a Ferris wheel out at Coney Island and stuff, I guess. And that's what they'd have to do. Like, back in the day, these guys wouldn't get paid nothing. So when they need buildings, you can go out, you go out and sketch. You can go out and sketch people anyway. Reference for stuff that's this sort of realistic. It's not easy to find. Once upon a time. Hey, let's see if we can bump this one in the algorithm. If you haven't hit the like button, please do that. I don't usually do kind of crap, but I want to see if it actually does anything. Because we're gonna flip through all the way to the sucker, and look at how thick that is. Wow, we barely scratched the surface. I'm just gonna have to flip a little faster. That's all there is to it. We get to flipping. Some of that great old dead man stuff. Wow, love this splash page. Oh my god. There's one of these pages that's in here that I'd seen in person before. It used to be hanging in Scott Dunbeer's office back at Wildstorm 30 years ago. Admiring it then. Wow, look at that. The drapery going on and stuff in there. That's incredible. Oh, oh, this sucker's heavy. Oh, can I get it to where you guys can look at it? Not really. Oh, no bumping into the camera and stuff. Uh, this sucker is heavy. You're crazy with it. Some nice side of the brush, sort of dry brushy looking effect going on here. Nice stuff. See, we're so zoomed out, you guys can't see any of this fine detail that's going on. And then I'm down. And throw my back out, trying to lift this damn thing up and down. It's a thick book. It is bigger than the average artist's edition, by far. No doubt. I don't know how many pages are in it, but the standard artist edition is usually about 160 pages or something like that. This is probably 100 pages over that, I would guess. Not quite as thick as my Ronin Gallery edition. So that is just crazy, crazy thick. It's got the whole series in it, but it's a big one. I love the use of zipatone. You used to hit that same angle all the time with that. Whoever that is that speaks to man, it's been a long time. I don't remember who it is. I'm sure somebody in the comments will remember and say, like, you remember? No, I don't remember. I'm sorry. I keep seeing hints of Infantino in some of this old stuff, and I know that Infantino was the artist on the first uh, Dead Man story. Maybe Maybe they had some sort of instruction that he should try and draw a little bit like Infantino. I'm not sure. I am sure that that's probably Neal Adams' daughter making a little guest appearance at the time. He used to like to slip his kids into the photo reference whenever he needed a kid. Like, hey, got one at the house. Draw that one. At least you won't need parental permission, right? Then we get to the Green Lantern, Green Arrow section. Most of this stuff is going to be by Giordano. Most of this book that isn't inked by Neal Adams himself is pretty much inked by Giordano. And I love all this foreshortening stuff that he had. So dynamic, especially for the time. Now, the image guys eventually took the things that they saw in these old Neal Adams stuff and ran with it. Uh, but this stuff that we're looking at here is 71, 72. So pretty racy stuff. More fold out work. This is all pencil going on over here. I'm going to show you a little bit of it at a time because there's no way I'm going to hold that out. No, it looks like he's gone in with the ink some. Okay. So the upper parts are regular pen and ink stuff, and then down here he's got a couple of portraits. And then there's a nice, uh, not a double page spread, but almost, of Green Lantern and Green Arrow. Very nice. Some primo Neal Adams stuff in this. Like most all the Neal Adams stuff that I could think of where it's like, ooh, I want to see that. And ooh, I want to see that. It's all in here. These pages are inked by Bernie Wrightson. I thought it was a little too soft. I gotta say, I didn't think he messed with Neal as well as others did. Still very interesting to see, though. Oh wow! See, I didn't even see that they must have done a color hold where they've knocked all those lines out in red or something in print around Green Lantern. Hey, Mike, big man. Yeah, I love these things too. A little too much. I have to limit myself because limited space, and these things are not small. In a way, I kind of like the artisan editions. These are a little too big and unwieldy. Like for example, I got this yesterday. It's the second time I've flipped through it is with you guys because, well, not an easy thing breaking it down to look at it. I may as well do it live. You guys want to see it too anyway, so two birds with one stone, as my mother used to say. I love this work. Great, great. And now we're getting into an all pencil thing again. That's right. As tight as this stuff looks, that is all pencil. And we'll pick it up for that. Let's see if I can show you this. Um, there we go. Incredibly tight pencils. Like this guy had been doing this, you know, 30 years later, you would just shoot from these like they used to with Michael Turner and darken it up in Photoshop. Yeah, I don't even have a proper drawing space anymore. There's no room for it. All the drawings I do is like done on this little TV tray, sitting flat. No, I do have a nice tilt on my digital rig, you know, it's sitting on my tabletop over here. But yeah, when I'm doing analog pencil and ink stuff, I'm doing it sitting right here, right where this thing's sitting, and usually trying not to work this big. It is amazing that that is in pencil. Every line that you see there, every crisp line that you see, all rendered in pencil. And if that's what your stuff looked like all the time, surely you can't be inking, you can't be penciling that tight, even with the inker, right? What would be the point of having the inker? You can obviously print from the pencils. It's just crazy how tight that is. Is that okay? All right, I'm going the wrong direction. Let's go this way. More Green Lantern stuff. Green Arrow. This work with his deep shadows and stuff in the face. When I was a kid, I didn't understand that and angles like this, upward angles like this. I still try to draw stuff like that, and it's challenging. But to me, if you could do deep shadows like that, like stuff like this, that looks almost photorealistically done to me. Like if that was an old newspaper photo, maybe. Very high contrast, black and white stuff. Wow. These textures that I do that are evolved from Giordano textures that I didn't realize. Some of this in here. Scott Williams has a version of that. Scott used to talk about Giordano and Adams' work in particular quite a lot. More pencil stuff up here, ink stuff down there. Stuff like that's very cool to me. And then there's this horror story. This is all pencil all the way through. The kid running through the forest, the expression on the face, using the trees as panel gutters. to separate your panels. It's kind of a neat experiment. Love this stuff. I can't tell if this is all pencil or if at some point it gets reinforced in ink. I guess it doesn't really matter. It's hard to say. I think that's all pencil though. I think he's just going with really soft pencil in spots. I would be smearing the shit out of this to even try. I know, right? That first page of that horror story. This one too. I love these little demon critters and stuff going on. You can see where, like, maybe a young Mark Silvestri is looking at stuff like this and then translating it in his head to those little goblins that used to hang out in the darkness. Anybody know what I'm talking about? That's cool. Some of these old covers. And this little pan with the flute. And there's his daughter again. See, when I was a kid, I used to look at this stuff and think that he drew this realistically. You know, they'd feed you that stuff about, like, oh, natural born, God given talent. And you just think that, like, okay, well, you either got it or you don't. And, like, well, to some degree that's true, but stuff like that, you can get a little help. Regular sized artist edition of some EC horror. Are you talking about the artisan edition? That's the one I've got. Is the EC stories. It's like magazine sized, pretty much. Yeah, yeah. It's still got a lot of really cool stuff. The problem with the original sized EC stories one is the damn thing is 16 by 20, and it's like this wasn't big enough, right? Now, I understand you're going to do the pages the same size as the pages were drawn, but there goes to be a limit, you know. It is nice to see it. It is difficult to be able to break it out and enjoy it for me, unfortunately. Mike's like, you need a better desk. And you're right, I do. One thing at a time. It's pencil. It's crazy because they printed from these pencils to the cover, which is weird. You didn't see anybody doing that kind of crap through the 80s. Maybe it doesn't reproduce well on the actual cover. I'd never even seen this piece before. This one either. Yeah, there we go. A great shot of Superman's face. Look at that. See, that's the kind of realism that just dialed me into Neal Adams on that intensity of facial expression. These dramas would come alive on the page because Neal had this absolute supreme grasp of anatomy and facial expression, and he could draw these things in such a way that it looked like you were standing there watching it. Look at that. That cover is absolutely stunning. This is before Christopher Reeve put on the costume, man. But there he is. There's Superman in real life, right there on your comic book page. Just amazing stuff. Wow, we got to the end fairly fast. We're getting there. Superboy. This is Superman versus Muhammad Ali. Double page spread. And glide over so you guys can kind of get a look at it, the whole thing. And the other side, we've got like this nice wraparound cover. Bunch of DC characters flying along. And then I guess this is this is stuff from his later years. You can tell from the inking style he's using more of. If I'm not mistaken, this is the era where he had gone with using pit pens. Some of the last work that he did at DC. This, however, is quite a bit older, and I think I would not at all be surprised if these were Giordano inks on this big spread of everybody and their brother. Crazy. Okay, be careful. I don't want to. I don't want to break it. Hey. See, that's what I'm talking about. You guys get along, please. Mm, mm. Some of these covers, like I said, I didn't even know that this was Neal. I don't think I've ever even seen that cover, or if I did, I didn't pay much attention to it because it's not a standout. It's a storytelling sort of cover. Pencils on this are by Dick Dillon, the Justice League of America artist, who was also really, really good, even without Neal inking. But with Neal inking, it was definitely going to shine. Uh, this is a Private Life of Clark Kent story, where Superman's babysitting and trying to keep track of this kid, and at the same time, trying not to reveal he's Superman as usual. Lots of stories centered just around that, like making sure that nobody figured it out. Yeah, I don't recall ever seeing this piece, and I think that that's I don't know. Just say what era of inking that is, 70s or 80s, because course, his ink style does sort of shift over the course of decades, as it's gonna. Okay, and yeah, this badass Justice League cover. Wow, nah, incredible stuff. That's a nice cover. I love that. Yeah, this is in the Art of Neal Adams, Volume One. But it's got a mezzo tint filter over the top of it, so you don't get to see the ink wash going on like you do here. This is from the original art itself. Is that sorry? No, that is not duo shade board. That is straight up ink wash. Although he does look like he's kept his tones somewhat limited, the way you would if you were doing duo shade. Yeah, I'd never seen this before. El Diablo with inks by Wrightson again. And I guess it's an entire story. We're getting towards the end. I did skip some pages because, well, I'm sure IDW would appreciate it if you would go buy a copy. And I've already been here almost an hour. So I love this book already. I've waited a very long time to own this. Well, I think I'm going to end my tour right here. Man, I met him. He was one of a kind. Met him in Chicago 2012. And you got to take a picture. I know that hand. I shook that hand. So, and yeah, that guy had a grip. He's one of those guys that would shake your hand and you'd know. So, but yeah, I think I'm going to wind it up here. Um, Thanks for joining me. That was awesome to shake Neal Adams' hand. I really was kind of starstruck. And I knew I was going to get dumber and dumber as time went on. And I was talking with him. So I really just kind of went up there, said my piece, and then moved on. Said what I needed to say to him, shook his hand, and walked away. So he was kind enough to exchange some emails with me later, though. Um, Generous with his time and gave me a couple pieces of advice. So gruff as they were. Anyway, thanks for joining me for this look through this thing. I'm sure I'll have this thing out again and have it up here when I'm doing a live stream. So thanks for coming. Have a good day. Bye.